Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first, OpenAI's $1.4 trillion spending plan sparks fears of a dot-com-style bubble burst, echoing Netscape's historic battle with Microsoft. We'll analyze why this massive bet is a turning point and how it could determine if OpenAI survives against giants bundling AI into their ecosystems. Second, OpenAI declares a code red to launch GPT 5.2, sparking a war over benchmark gerrymandering against rivals like Anthropic. In this episode, we'll break down this high-stakes competitive scramble and what it signals for the future of AI performance benchmarks and professional software. Third, a $21 billion deal reveals Anthropic is betting on Google's TPUs, a direct challenge to Nvidia's dominance in the AI chip market. We'll explore how this massive bet on specialized chips could transform the AI supply chain and challenge Nvidia's long-held market leadership. Fourth, Nvidia's deal to sell H200 chips to China under a 25% toll road policy sparks fierce national security backlash in Washington. So we'll discuss why this unprecedented policy matters and what it means for the intersection of national security, corporate profits, and US tech exports. Fifth, a wonder material called CZT is creating a global bottleneck, threatening a £500 million UK science project and future medical tech. Today, we'll take a closer look at this manufacturing bottleneck and its implications for the strategic supply chains underpinning science, medicine, and defense. The story begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. A company that started as a non-profit to benefit humanity is now planning to spend $1.4 trillion to dominate the world. A while back, we broke down how that number isn't just a headline. It maps to a concrete data center build-out targeting roughly 30 gigawatts of capacity because training and running frontier models devours compute. That company is OpenAI. A decade ago, it was a research lab launched by Elon Musk and Sam Altman with a $1 billion pledge to keep AI out of the hands of big corporations. Today, that mission is a distant memory. What many might not grasp is the sheer oddity of its structure. As we've talked about before, to handle the massive costs of AI development, the original non-profit created a new for-profit arm. It's a unique setup called capped profit, where the original non-profit foundation still technically calls the shots and profits are supposed to be limited. But with trillion-dollar ambitions, it raises a huge question: can a mission to benefit humanity really survive when it's tied to a commercial juggernaut? OpenAI is a commercial juggernaut valued at $500 billion, and its two founders are now bitter rivals. The core of the conflict goes back years. In a 2017 email, Musk warned his co-founders, "Guys, I've had enough. This is the final straw. I will no longer fund OpenAI if it turned into a tech startup." Sam Altman wrote back, "I remain enthusiastic about the non-profit structure." The next year, Musk was out. This wasn't just about money. What we're seeing is a fundamental ideological clash over the soul of AI. The debate is between moving fast and commercializing versus prioritizing safety and ethical alignment. This schism is at the very heart of the entire story. He's since sued OpenAI and launched his own competitor, xAI, which is on track to be valued at $230 billion. And the story doesn't stop there. Other ex-OpenAI employees left to form their own rival, Anthropic, now potentially valued at $350 billion. The people who founded Anthropic, including OpenAI's former vice president of research, left because they felt OpenAI was no longer prioritizing safety. They were so concerned, they structured Anthropic as a public benefit corporation, legally binding it to consider its impact on society. A while back, we also walked through Anthropic's push toward an early IPO and a $50 billion infrastructure build-out to win enterprise credibility. This isn't just a business rivalry. It's a philosophical war that has ignited an AI arms race fueled by incomprehensible sums of money. To win, Sam Altman is ready to outspend everyone. OpenAI has sketched out a plan for a $1.4 trillion infrastructure outlay. Altman says the demand in the market is pretty extreme, and he expects OpenAI to hit $20 billion in revenue this year alone. A few days ago, we mentioned how the demand side is finally showing up with 9-figure annual enterprise deals, and OpenAI just poached Slack's former CEO, Denise Dresser, as Chief Revenue Officer to industrialize that pipeline. The spend is massive, but the playbook is clear. turn infrastructure into locked-in predictable revenue. This kind of spending spree should sound a warning bell, as it echoes one of the biggest crashes in tech history. In the late 90s, companies spent billions laying fiber optic cables, assuming internet demand would be infinite, but the demand didn't grow fast enough, the bubble burst, and companies went bankrupt. This $1 trillion AI spending spree on data centers carries the exact same risk. What if the market for AI services doesn't scale fast enough to justify the astronomical costs? And this colossal bet is not without risk. When Oracle, a key partner for OpenAI, reported weaker than expected revenue, its stock plunged 11%, dragging other AI stocks down with it. The market is already showing signs of serious jitters. Investors are getting nervous. In fact, Oracle's long-term debt has ballooned by 25% in the last year, and the cost to insure against its default has surged. It's a sign that even in the biggest tech boom in decades, nothing is guaranteed. This all leads to one massive question for the company that created ChatGPT. As one analyst put it, will OpenAI's role in history be Netscape or will it be Google? This isn't just an abstract question. Netscape was the first dominant web browser with 80% of the market, but it was wiped out when the giant Microsoft decided to bundle its own browser, Internet Explorer, for free with every copy of Windows. OpenAI is Netscape in this analogy, the brilliant first mover. But now the giants are waking up. Google is integrating its AI, Gemini, directly into Search, Android, and Chrome, leveraging its massive built-in distribution network. It's the exact same strategy Microsoft used. And as we noted a while back, OpenAI is trying to be the neutral connective layer that works with everything, while its partner competitor Microsoft pushes a more closed Copilot ecosystem, making the bundling question even sharper. The stage is set for a showdown to see if OpenAI's head start is enough to survive being bundled out of existence. Speaking of survival, that pressure is clearly being felt inside OpenAI. The company behind ChatGPT just admitted it was in a code red state, scrambling to fight off intense competition from rivals like Google and Anthropic. This isn't just a corporate memo. It's a high-stakes battle to justify a staggering $500 billion valuation. We previously analysed how that pressure was building Anthropic racing toward a first-to-auto market IPO with a massive infrastructure push and OpenAI opting for a huge secondary share sale instead of a near-term listing. Today's admission is the clearest confirmation of that urgency. Now, a code red in the tech world isn't just corporate jargon. It's an all-hands-on-deck emergency protocol. It means pausing non-essential projects, reallocating entire teams, and compressing development timelines into intense sprints. While this allows a company to react with incredible speed, it comes with huge risks. This kind of constant urgency can lead to employee burnout and, more importantly, it can shift the company's focus from long-term, careful research to short-term, reactive product releases just to win a market battle. A while back, we said this is the moment companies flip from research mode to ship mode, the same execution mindset behind OpenAI's Slack playbook, hire to industrialize enterprise sales. In response to competitors closing the gap, OpenAI is launching a counteroffensive, their most advanced artificial intelligence model yet, GPT 5.2. The company was forced to declare the code red after competitors launched their own powerful models, prompting OpenAI to sideline other projects and marshal all its resources into one area. And the scale of this fight is almost unbelievable. OpenAI is not just defending its turf, it's aiming to justify over $1.4 trillion in planned spending, all while its chatbot, ChatGPT, is already being used by over 800 million people every single week. We've talked about those usage numbers and the enterprise push a while back. What's new here is how explicitly OpenAI is tying this model to professional credibility under time pressure. And to be clear, that $1.4 trillion figure isn't just for paying salaries. This is a plan to build out a massive global infrastructure of data centers, secure the incredible amount of energy needed to run them, and acquire the specialized computer chips required for AI. We're talking about projects like the reported $500 billion Stargate initiative with partners like Oracle and SoftBank. Continuing our last discussion about SoftBank's Stargate ambitions, this lines up with the same Oni's stack logic we talked about a while back. To put that in perspective, a single state-of-the-art AI data center in 2025 can cost up to $200 million to build, with operating costs adding another 15% annually. OpenAI is betting its entire future on being able to build this infrastructure and generate hundreds of billions in revenue to pay for it. The company's CEO, Sam Altman, went on the record stating that when a competitive threat happens, you deal with it quickly, and he expects to be out of the code red by January. That tracks with management stance we discussed earlier, prove stability through execution rather than rushing to list. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. While a rival model from Anthropic technically scores higher on one specific coding test, OpenAI fired back. They told reporters that particular benchmark is less industrially relevant and challenging than the one their own model excels at. Believe it or not, we are witnessing the start of what some are calling benchmark gerrymandering, where companies promote the tests that make their own AI look best. So, the thing is, the rival model did well on a test called SWE Bench Verified, which has about 500 real-world bug fixes. On that test, the best models can score over 70%, but OpenAI is pointing to a much harder test, SWE Bench Pro, which has nearly 2,000 more complex tasks. On that one, even the top models from OpenAI and Anthropic struggle to score above 23%. So when you hear one company is better than another, the real question is who made the test and what are they actually measuring? This is more than just an update. It's a show of force. The real bombshell number from OpenAI is this. In a head-to-head evaluation, the new GPT 5.2 beat or tied top industry professionals on over 70% of well-specified tasks. We've talked before about investors leaning on non-traditional metrics to justify sky-high valuations. This is exactly that kind of metric, and that brings us to why these well-specified tasks are the real prize. We're talking about integrating this AI directly into professional software like Microsoft 365. Imagine an AI that can not only answer questions, but can independently generate strategic insights in an Excel spreadsheet or build a complex analysis in a PowerPoint presentation. A while back, we said OpenAI wants to be the neutral connective layer for work, the Slack of AI, even as Microsoft pushes a more closed Copilot ecosystem. Today's move pushes that tension right into the heart of professional software, and that's where this battle gets decided. We were just talking about the high-stakes software battle, but beneath it all, an even bigger war is being fought over the silicon that makes it all possible. Broadcom just unmasked its mystery $10 billion customer, and the name is a bombshell at the center of the AI wars, Anthropic. The significance of this announcement runs deeper than you might think. Traditionally, a component supplier like Broadcom would operate behind the scenes. The service provider, in this case Google Cloud, would be the one managing and announcing a deal with an end customer like Anthropic. By disclosing this deal directly, Broadcom is signaling a major power shift in the AI supply chain, positioning itself as a primary AI systems provider, not just a quiet supplier to the tech giants. We previously analyzed how the big US clouds were pouring billions into custom silicon as a strategic weapon. The latest development is the supplier stepping out of the shadows and claiming front-of-house status in that same playbook. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is just being served, that $10 billion order for custom chips, it was followed by an additional $11 billion order from Anthropic in the latest quarter. That's a $21 billion bet from a single company. And what are they buying? Not the Nvidia chips that dominate the market. They're buying Google's latest Tensor processing units, or TPUs, which Broadcom helps build. A while back, we broke down Nvidia's moat, its CUDA software ecosystem, and the NVLink fabric tying accelerators together. This move is a bet on a parallel stack built around Google's TPUs, not Nvidia's world. This decision brings both huge benefits and comes with inherent risks, especially for the market leader, Nvidia. As we've discussed before, TPUs are a type of chip called an ASIC, or application-specific integrated circuit. Unlike a general-purpose GPU from Nvidia that can do many things well, an ASIC is custom-built to do one thing with incredible efficiency. For TPUs, that one thing is the specific type of math, called tensor operations, that powers modern AI. This specialization is what makes them so powerful, and the results are staggering. Research shows that TPUs can consume 60 to 65% less energy for the exact same AI job compared to a GPU. This is a massive validation for Google, which just bragged it trained its state-of-the-art Gemini 3 model entirely on these very chips. Continuing our last discussion about how the real battleground is the full stack, Google is proving its alternative stack can scale. The scale of this alliance is staggering. Anthropic and Google have a separate cloud partnership valued in the tens of billions of dollars. This deal gives Anthropic access to as many as 1 million Google TPUs, a move expected to bring over a gigawatt of new AI compute capacity online. Here's a fascinating duality. Anthropic isn't exclusive. The AI lab also uses custom chips from Amazon, Google's primary cloud rival. A while back, we called this co-opetition in practice, rivals leaning on each other's infrastructure when it delivers advantage. So this multi-chip strategy actually reveals the true nature of the game. It isn't just a technical choice for optimizing different AI models, it's a critical business hedge. By diversifying across Google, Amazon, and others, Anthropic avoids getting locked into a single platform, protecting itself from supply chain shortages, price gouging, and giving any one provider too much power. It's a stark contrast to a company like OpenAI, which historically has had a very deep, singular partnership with Microsoft. This multi-chip strategy reveals a frantic arms race where leading AI players are spreading colossal bets across every major platform to secure an edge. And the gold rush is accelerating. Broadcom has already secured a fifth unnamed customer for its custom AI chips, starting with a $1 billion order. The CEO's promise, it will grow. Interestingly enough, this points to a new trend emerging from the shadows, corporate sovereign AI. Just as nations are pursuing sovereign AI to ensure they have independent compute capacity, we're now seeing massive corporations outside of big tech doing the same. A while back, we examined how China is racing toward national AI independence, forced by policy constraints and sanctions, and how that requires not just chips but a homegrown software stack to rival CUDA. Today's development is the market-driven corporate version of that same logic in the West. Build or buy your own stack, reduce dependency, and control your destiny. This all points to a fundamental shift in the AI power struggle. As analysts now argue, the key bottleneck for AI is no longer just chip supply, but raw power consumption. And as we've discussed, when the fight shifts from sheer chip count to efficiency and end-to-end control of the stack, specialized ASICs like Google's TPUs become the most credible challenge to Nvidia's throne, positioning Google with Broadcom at its side to capture a massive share of the future of computing. Speaking of the high-stakes battle for chip dominance, Nvidia itself is now at the center of a political firestorm in Washington. A deal to sell America's most advanced AI chips to China is being called a complete sellout of American national security by Senator Elizabeth Warren. A while back, we walked through Washington's shift from blanket bans to a conditional toll road for advanced chips. Today's flashpoint is the political backlash to that shift, and it's coming in hot. The bombshell accusation comes after President Donald Trump announced that semiconductor giant Nvidia can sell its highly sought-after H200 artificial intelligence chips to approved customers in China. To understand the firestorm, you have to look at the specific chip involved, the H200. It's part of Nvidia's powerful Hopper generation of AI chips. While it's incredibly advanced, it's not their absolute best. The US is still restricting the export of Nvidia's even more powerful Blackwell series chips. So the strategy seems to be to sell China something that is good enough but not state-of-the-art. When we place the H200's power alongside China's own progress, the strategic gamble becomes clear. The H200 is about 6 times more powerful than the downgraded chips Nvidia was previously allowed to sell to China. But at the same time, Chinese companies like Huawei are catching up with their own Ascend 910C chip, reportedly reaching up to 70% of the performance of some of Nvidia's top-tier banned chips. As we discussed a while back, even Nvidia's own Jensen Huang has said Huawei is probably comparable to the H200 in some respects, though the gap in power efficiency remains real, and Nvidia's real moat is its software ecosystem, CUDA, which more than 2.5 million developers rely on. It's a high-stakes balancing act. What really brought this to a head was the deal's most unusual condition. The US government will get a 25% cut of all revenues from the sales. We flagged this toll road model a while back. The latest development is how ferociously it's being attacked on national security grounds by both parties. This represents a completely new playbook for American trade policy. This isn't a tariff, which is a tax on imports. This is the US government taking a direct share of a private company's revenue from foreign sales as a condition for an export license. There's simply no precedent for this. Legal experts are already questioning if it's even constitutional, pointing to the export clause, which prohibits taxes on exports. This move blends national security controls with direct revenue generation in a way we've never seen before. Senator Warren didn't mince words on the Senate floor. She asked why President Trump would make a deal that she says threatens both the economy and national security. Her answer was blunt. It's simple. In the Trump administration, money talks. That's the new angle today, turning the policy pivot we covered earlier into a fight over influence and potential conflicts of interest. To grasp the stakes for Nvidia, you just have to follow the money. China has been a massive market for them. In fiscal year 2023, China accounted for over $5.7 billion of Nvidia's revenue. By 2025, that number had ballooned to over $17 billion. But when the US imposed strict export controls, Nvidia's market share in China's advanced AI chip sector plummeted from over 90% to nearly zero. So for Nvidia, getting back into this market, even with a 25% revenue cut, is a huge financial priority. We've been tracking this pressure for a while. Today's fight is about the political cost of answering that pressure. Warren then connected the dots directly to Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang. She pointed to Huang attending a $1 million per plate dinner at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home shortly before the deal was announced. She added that in this administration, being able to cozy up to Donald Trump might be the most important corporate CEO skill of all. The timing is also raising eyebrows. Just days before Trump announced the deal, his own Department of Justice was publicly touting a major crackdown on a China-linked AI tech smuggling network. We noted enforcement would be the stress test for any toll road approach. This is exactly the kind of contradiction critics are seizing on. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of complexity. The deal hinges on selling only to so-called approved customers in China. This list is different from the government's more restrictive entity list, which names companies seen as direct national security threats. The Commerce Department is supposed to vet these approved customers, but the challenge is enormous. How do you guarantee these incredibly powerful chips aren't diverted to the Chinese military? It relies on cooperation from the Chinese government for things like on-site inspections, which has been a major stumbling block in the past. And as we mentioned a while back, Beijing has also been signaling it could curb Nvidia imports to carve out space for domestic champions. So Washington's green light may still meet a red one in Beijing, especially given the perceived strategic liability of, depending on Nvidia's CUDA stack. Now, Warren is demanding that Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick testify before Congress to explain the agreement. She is urging lawmakers to pass bipartisan legislation to rein in the administration and impose new export restrictions, framing this as a critical battle over whether national security can be bought and sold. Ultimately, this whole affair raises a fundamental question. Is national security now a commodity? If this becomes a precedent, it could signal a major shift where strategic technologies are traded for direct financial gain. A while back, we framed this as a toll road. Warren is effectively trying to close the toll gates. Some experts are pointing to the historical Oil for Food program, which was designed for humanitarian goals, but became plagued by corruption. This new policy could open a Pandora's box, creating a world where national security principles are negotiable, potentially undermining trust with our allies and changing the rules of global power. The fight over advanced chips highlights a critical vulnerability in modern technology, the supply chain. But it's not the only bottleneck causing global concern. A seemingly obscure wonder material is now threatening a £500 million science project, and it all hinges on a single material, so exclusive, even top researchers are struggling to get their hands on it. The project is the UK's Diamond Light Source facility, and an expert involved put it bluntly, there's no point in spending all this money in upgrading these facilities if you can't detect the light they produce. Now, get this, detecting high-energy light like X-rays and gamma rays with precision is incredibly difficult. Many older materials need to be cryogenically cooled to work properly, which is expensive and complex, but the material they need is called Cadmium Zinc Telluride, or CZT, and it's being called a revolution. The key is that CZT works at room temperature and can measure the energy of each individual light particle or photon that hits it. This gives scientists an unprecedented level of detail, far beyond what traditional detectors can offer. In one London hospital, a new scanner using CZT slashed a 45-minute lung scan down to just 15 minutes. Not only that, it produces what doctors call beautiful 3D images while cutting radiation doses by 30%. Here's where it gets interesting. Traditional X-rays are like black and white photos. They show density but not much else. CZT enables what's called photon counting or spectroscopic imaging. This means the scanner can see in color, metaphorically speaking. It can tell the difference between materials by their unique energy signatures. For a doctor, this could mean clearly distinguishing healthy tissue from cancerous tissue in real time just by its color. It's a massive leap forward in diagnostics. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point is the manufacturing process. This so-called wonder material is notoriously difficult to make. The process takes weeks, using hundreds of specialized furnaces to grow single crystals, atom by atom. The process is so mind-bendingly hard because you have to grow a perfect, flawless single crystal. The material has very low thermal conductivity, which makes it incredibly difficult to keep the temperature perfectly even during the growth process. Any tiny fluctuation can create defects that ruin the detector. It is a process of such extreme precision that the knowledge to do it is almost a form of modern-day alchemy protected by trade secrets. The result is that only a handful of companies in the world, like the UK's Chromec, can actually produce it, and that scarcity is creating a major bottleneck. This is where the story gets even more complicated. The raw ingredients themselves are a huge problem. CZT is made from cadmium, a toxic heavy metal, and tellurium, which is one of the rarest stable elements on Earth. Most of the world's tellurium is produced as a byproduct of copper refining, and the supply is dominated by just a few countries, with China being the largest producer. This creates a fragile supply chain, much like the one we see for rare earth minerals used in our phones and electric cars. This is the core conflict. One professor at Washington University needs CZT for space telescopes that study black holes. He wants to buy 17 new detectors but was unable to source them. The CEO of Chromec confirms they have high demand, stating, "It's very difficult for us to do 100 different things, and that scarcity is forcing experts to make tough choices. They might have to settle for a good enough alternative, like a related material called cadmium telluride or CT. It's cheaper and more available, but it lacks the superior energy resolution that makes CZT a true game changer. It's a classic trade-off between the ideal and the available. This isn't just about academic research. The same CZT technology is already being used to detect explosives in UK airports and is expected to roll out for hand luggage scanning within years. On a global scale, this matters because governments are now waking up to CZT's strategic importance. Just like advanced semiconductors, having a secure supply is becoming a national priority for defense, medicine, and critical scientific research. This isn't just a component anymore, it's a strategic resource. From £500 million scientific upgrades to the future of airport security and medical diagnostics, the world is becoming dependent on a material most have never heard of. It's a technological revolution, but it's a revolution controlled by the very few who know how to create it.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.